Welcome back, and joining us on the show now is Himanshu Agarwal. He's MD Satyam Balaji Group. Himanshu, hi. All headlines when it comes to agriculture commodities seems to be coming in from rice, whether it is about very strong export numbers and the expectation of that continuing, or it's about the kind of procurement that the government seems to be looking at near record highs. Let's start with export numbers first, and from 10 billion to 14 billion, an expectation of a higher number this time around. How are you looking at export markets and the competitiveness that India holds?
Oh, hi, Manisha ji. So what I feel is that in export markets, India is facing a very tough competition from countries like Vietnam, Myanmar, and Thailand. However, we have, held our ship steady, and there is still a bit of demand after, especially the price correction that India has seen in last 2 quarters. So now I feel that, eventually we would see a bit of a dip in export numbers going down the line comparing to last few years. But we should not have a huge decline. But government needs to find a way to channelize its stock into the export market in a better way, because we have not been able to gain access to the huge pile of stock government is sitting upon. So that is something which will give a huge boost if government can find a way of doing that. In the meantime, record procurement, 53 million tons, almost 1% higher than what it was last year, and government struggling to find space to keep this cargo. State governments doing auctions all over, but somehow these cargoes are not able to find their way into the export markets. So that, because China has done that, Thailand has done that in the past, that whenever there were stocks went to comfortable over the guidelines and they still had to do the procurement, they found a way of liquidating these stocks into the overseas market. So I think that's one thing government needs to think over if they want to continue the procurement like they are doing right now on year basis, because this excess that India is producing every year because of higher incentivization of farmers. Now Odisha government has also started bonus, so you would expect more harvest and more cultivation of rice in that state and few other states where new incentives have been announced. So the number of 149 million tons of cultivation is going to go higher with every passing year. So government needs to find a way of channelizing the excess procurement. Only then this wheel can perpetually run.
So, Himanshu, what's your sense on what subsidy or what measures should the government now come out with? Because all those restrictions that we saw in sense of rice exports, almost all have been done away with by March 2025. So what is it that you're anticipating or hoping for from the government?
So basically, we can look at the higher percentage of ROTDEP. We are just getting about 0.9%, because Indian competitiveness because if you see the export numbers of rice, we were at 22 million tons in 2022-23, and there has been a substantial decline on that number. Maybe on absolute, in dollar terms, you're seeing an increase, but in rice quantity wise, there has been a dip in export. So if you want to go back to 23-24 million tons of export, we definitely need the interest subvention back. We definitely need a higher ROTDEP and access to the government stock. I mean, because if you see on the hindsight, Indian government is the largest consumer of Indian rice in the local market. So they are the ones who are kind of keeping the price at bay, and it's not reaching at a more competitive level as it were in 2021-22. So we need to find a way to keep the prices competitive. So I mean, these are few measures that government can take by which we can get back to 23-24 million tons of export.
Himanshu, we've seen Indian markets in quite a euphoria when you look at all of those rice stocks because of the kind of rice availability that we have and the expectation that the exports would do better. But you're saying that while the numbers seem really good, it is the concern of competitiveness that the sector continues to face.
Absolutely. I mean, these news of Indian government sitting on such huge stock of rice is not something the buyers in Africa or Asian countries are not aware of. The moment you're speaking to a buyer, he's talking about, what are you guys going to do with this rice? So everybody knows that we are sitting on this huge stock of rice, and with the new crop approaching in the next couple of months, so everybody anticipates the markets to correct, but the government in some way is providing that support to the market, which is not going beyond a certain level. So that's why the competitiveness is, something which is a bit of a concern, because we have today Thailand at par with Indian prices, about $360, $375, which was never the case. Thai used to be at least $30, $40 higher than Indian rice, but today they are at the same price. So of course, some of the demand are shifting to the other countries. So if we want to pull back in those demand and we have to go back to the earlier numbers, definitely there's some steps that needs to be taken care of.
Himanshu, how would you look at the international prices as well? Because they have continued to decline too. It's not just India. We're looking at better rice crop in various other origin countries too.
Yes, that is true. But India has a reason. I mean, all of a sudden the duty was removed. So that crashed the prices by about 20-25% globally. And then all of a sudden there was this availability of rice. So while India imposed restriction, while India put on the duty on certain varieties, the other origins racked up their production and everybody was trying to fill in the gap, the vacuum India created. But all of a sudden, when India came back to the market, everybody was sitting on a huge stock, and they were all kind of crashing prices. So this kind of this phenomena created a depression in the rice market, wherein we are seeing that it's not like the old days. We're not seeing the demand. It's not like we have people calling in numbers and trying to get their hands on the rice. Everybody knows that there are multiple options. So even if India is not available or if India is not competitive, there are multiple origins they can go back to. So this uncertainty in government policy has created, I mean, has taken away a fair bit of market share from India in certain destination because, I mean, we were absolutely absent for 2 years. So they had to look for alternatives, and now they have gone to those alternatives.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Thanks very much, Manisha, for taking us through that interesting conversation.